Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today's Wildcard Sunday where we look at something a little bit different from our regularly scheduled videos during the week. So a little while ago I actually reviewed a more modern comic that just had come out, which was Wolverine Revenge #1. And I mostly follow every once in a while these modern titles depending on who the artist is. So the fact that Greg Capullo is working on Wolverine is pretty much the only reason I bought this first issue and now this second issue, just following the art. Not that the story's horrible in any way. I'll talk a little bit about it and what's going on in this issue. Starting with the cover. I mean, nothing, super crazy here. I mean, I love Greg Capullo, but this is a pretty run-of-the-mill kind of cover. The idea of these little portraits here, kind of skewered on his claws, I guess, is kind of fun and clever. But other than that, nothing, just that stands out with this cover. Not that it's horrible or anything. One thing I will mention, the inker, Tim Townsend, not that he does a bad job in any way. I think he does a very clean, professional job, but I do prefer, honestly, at least recently, the guy who inked Greg Capullo on Batman and that other series, I think is called We Have Monsters or something. Jonathan Glapion. I suspect that he's French, so that would be Glapion. But I'm not 100% sure, so I'll just say Glapion for now. I guess that's how it's pronounced. I do prefer him over Greg Capullo. And also, more old school Greg Capullo with Danny Miki on top is pretty sweet as well. McFarlane too, but if I have to pick between McFarlane inking Capullo and Miki inking Capullo, you have tons of examples of that on Spawn, I think I'd go with Miki. Miki was really, really good to Greg Capullo's pencils on that series. All right, we talked about the cover. Let's move inside. Listen, from the get-go, it's Greg Capullo, so no, every image just is, I don't want to say flawless, but seems, as from the artist's point of view, done kind of effortlessly and just always really hits home. Like, there's no bad drawing in this at all. Different angles, right? Top view down. The whole thing here, if you remember from issue 1, is all the other heroes that were tagging along. I forget exactly who's there already, but for sure there was Captain America, right? So that's kind of who they're talking about here. And Nick Fury, Wolverine. So apparently, a lot of these heroes are dead, right? And then you get to this page of Splash, and wow. Listen, design-wise, super simple. Mostly silhouette, right? Just a little bit of reflective kind of detail contouring to define the silhouette against the backdrop and the colors and stuff. Pretty simple, straight up shot. Here, I feel like some of the inking here is a little bit kind of not exactly to spec to what Greg Capullo drew underneath. I could be wrong on this, but there's just something about it, the way it's inked here, that doesn't ring true to Greg Capullo. Still a very kind of striking image, the design of it and everything, simple but effective for sure. And listen, this is just, a sequence where they're talking to each other, but there's kind of a bit I'll read out just so you kind of put you into context. Apparently, everything pretty much has been destroyed and S.H.I.E.L.D. is almost, a shadow of its former self. Let's see. We failed, the Empire's fallen, and now if we're lucky, only a couple 100 million people on this continent are going to die. All that's left of the great American experiment is less than 20 nuclear subs rolling in the deep water. And I give those good men a few months before they're warlords and pirates. So it's a pretty dire situation that's going on here. So, I mean, since this is only happening within the continuity of this series, I guess it doesn't seem to be affecting the rest of the Marvel Universe. So I wonder what's going on here. If they're going to pull, the old trope of the imaginary story or the parallel universe or something at some point. I hope not. But these are some pretty dire consequences that, for the Marvel Universe, or at least America in the Marvel Universe. So what are you going to do, right? He's obviously Logan's going to do something here. So it's called Wolverine Revenge. So, I mean, the theme of it is pretty obvious here. No one's going to be confused. While we're at it, if you watched the last few videos, hopefully you didn't notice my horribly disgusting nails, which I've now trimmed between shoots. A little bit of manicure there. So if you did notice and it did gross you out, I apologize, but not really. I don't care. But I do think for sure it's better and more appealing if I do cut my nails. So as soon as I realized that was done. I'll just read this little description here because it's kind of a modern version of Wolverine's kind of philosophy motto. How do you describe who is Wolverine, right? Mutant healing factor, enhanced senses, razor sharp adamantium claws. The man called Logan is no stranger to a brawl. He's the best there is at what he does, but what he does best is not very nice. So they've changed it up a bit, but the basic gist of it is that classic line. He's the best there is at what he does, and what he does isn't very nice. There's something that I don't know if they ripped off Bret the Hitman Hart or Bret the Hitman Hart. Someone ripped that off, but I feel like the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, that Bret Hart used to say. If any of you out there are familiar with wrestling, and imagine most of you are, there's a parallel there somehow. No, isn't there? Like, it feels like it's coming from the same place. Could just be me. So, really devoting a lot of real estate to the credits page here. One usually suffices, but we've got a double page spread for the credits. It's kind of, I guess, wasteful, I guess I would put it. These comics are pretty expensive now, these modern comics. So writer, Jonathan Hickman, penciler, Greg Capullo, inker, Tim Townsend, colorist, FCO Placencia, whatever that means. I think that's a studio probably. Letter, VC's Corey Petit, or Petit, because that's French as well. Cover artists, Greg Capullo, Tim Townsend, okay, etc., etc. Variant cover artist. Oh, I didn't know this. There's a Stephen Platt cover. If only he drew that cover in his like mid-90s style. It'd probably be something I'd be interested in. His current style, not that it's horrible. It's probably academically better, but I'm just not into it. I like crazy out there extreme Stephen Platt. So once again, Greg Capullo, no slouch in the storytelling department. Like I said, I really have nothing to say as far as composition, layouts, and stuff. Every drawing is pitch perfect. A little bit of shadows here, little details like that he adds from the plants or surrounding Wolverine. So he's in the Dakotas. Could be Canada. It's very similar. And some Jeep comes upon him, and we have this character from the New Mutants. That's what I remember her from, Danny Moonstar. Not that I read the New Mutants, but I know she's from that series early on. So Wolverine's here to basically meet Forge, and I guess Forge is going out with her, or they're a couple or something. Use the opportunity for kind of a quick flashback to that giant bear image Bill Sienkiewicz did back in the day on New Mutants. Kind of imagine maybe this guy here up front. You've seen that image, I'm sure. It's kind of a classic, probably one of the more memorable images from New Mutants, other than the Cable, Rob Liefeld stuff. The Jeep, I gotta say, again, as an artist, is pretty consistent when we see the interior, even though it's in silhouette. I've been in a Jeep. It's pretty much what it looks like. Pretty sure Greg Capullo uses reference, right, to get things right, or at least, have a good starting point. Let me just go back and, we don't talk about this, but talk about the Jeep. The wheel here, the actual Jeep, which I feel here maybe is light boxed somehow or some digital thing, and he draws over it, but that's okay too. Here as well, right? Maybe he's using some sort of program to adjust the perspective and then draws over it. He definitely draws over it. But it's something you might miss, but the consistency with the Jeep is just awesome. And it's kind of revealed at the other page here. We got Forge and Shadows, and that's who Wolverine really wants to talk to. What's cool is you've got like lots of different environments is what I noticed with this series. Every scene changes, so does the environment and the color scheme and stuff. So right now we're like, well, let's read the description. 2 days later, north and east. Okay, so you're in the northeast. Now during the day, right, the color scheme's completely different. And just very effective from scene to scene and contrast and stuff. I think the colors work really well in this. And it's a modern comic that I think color-wise holds back a bit, and there's some flat colors here and there, and there's a bit of gradation and stuff, which is fine, but it's not overdone. There's kind of a, I hate to say this, but kind of a classic vintage feel to maybe 90s comics, right? Or like this kind of stuff I review during the rest of the week, like the early 90s Marvel on good newsprint, right? Now this is all glossy paper and stuff, and I mean, I can't complain. The printing value is very good here. But just mainly flat colors with a bit of work done for volume and stuff. But I think the coloring looks great in this. I gotta say, for modern stuff, it's really not overdoing it, where I find a lot of modern stuff does. Art wise, again, the facility or the ease with which Greg Capullo redraws characters from different angles, and the consistency of it and the look and stuff. Forge as well, right? Like from every angle, he resembles himself. The shape of the nose is consistent, right? All that stuff. When you're drawing Wolverine, for example, drawing him from a 3/4 this angle, like getting this bit here where you see like the top part of his mask here, but the inside part, because he's turned obviously, sometimes it's kind of, it takes a few passes to get it right. And he's just all throughout, even from the back and stuff, he's just doing a stellar job. I mean, he's had a lot of practice. I guess drawing Batman would help you draw Wolverine and vice versa. I mean, even this ship here, you know, it's a throwaway ship that I guess he designed for just this sequence here. Mostly, I don't know if we're ever going to see it again. And it's just a great looking ship, right? It's got kind of Star Wars vibe, I would say. Very cool, even in the colors. So basically, they've found the site where I'm not up on my current mutant Marvel continuities. So apparently, you know, Magneto was pushed underground and died and stuff. So they've dug up his body here, and you know, it's pretty obvious what they dug him up for. They grabbed the helmet here, and that's going to somehow help them out, right? And Forge is going to work on it, so he's probably going to make it super crazy powerful, right? Forge's power, mutant powers to, like, I guess improve or engineer things and just create things. Pretty awesome power. That'd be great to have. Instead of playing in the desert and digging up Magneto, he could probably like make a lot of money in the real world. This background here, super simple and effective, really well done. You know, almost no modeling, no hatching or anything, just straight up, you know, shapes and spaces. Almost abstract, very cool. Kind of modern Kirby. All right, so a mysterious figure walks a city that's name has been erased, so we don't know exactly where that is. And they're all, you know, look like they're either very surprised or, you know, the visual reference is that they're zombies or under hypnosis or being controlled or something. And then, you know, we realize that it's this guy, the mastermind, right? Jason Wingard, is that his name? And we see him under his true form here because Wolverine, in this case, our mysterious figure, right? You didn't know it was Wolverine. Kind of a hint here. So the mysterious figure walks in, Wolverine, and is not affected by Wingard. His power is obviously to create illusions, right? He's the one hypnotizing everyone. So here he uses his power on him. And in a way, you know, he gets affected, but what you realize is that Wolverine's just basically faking that because he's used Magneto's helmet to protect him from that, whatever you want to, psionic or telekinetic attack. I'm not sure. Psychic attack, I guess is how you put it in the X-Men parlance. Parlance in French. So Wolverine's even taken the time to, or Forge has designed like Wolverinified Magneto's helmet here, which is, I mean, from a visual sense, I get it, it looks cool, but would you take the time to do that? It's comics, so I guess so. But it looks cool, right? So it's Wolverinito or like Magnarine or something. Money shot, right? There's our anchor image on that page for sure. Wolverine sporting Magneto's helmet. Interesting kind of, you know, I've talked about this, how I liked it when the character juts out and, you know, creates that extra layer of depth. Very well done here by Capullo. Even like adding in just a panel with some simple color and negative space and all this kind of framing job that he does is very interesting and designy and smart too. Just, you know, this is a good way to, I need to fill out this section of the page a little bit. There's just with something, right? Sometimes it's not an extra drawing, it's not an extra detail, it's just a mass that you need to throw in there, and that's a good way of doing it. This whole page, I like the interesting design that he's used there. The only thing I'm kind of confused. Okay, I see. He's got the jacket and he whips it off here. So, I mean, I didn't understand that right away. You know, the quick way I think to fix this would have been to, instead of this being dark on the inside here, should have been kind of another kind of variant of the tan color. So it really drives home the point that it's this jacket that he's thrown off there. Maybe it's just me. Threw me off a little bit. So it seems like Wolverine's basically cut off Wingard's head here real quick, off camera. So what they're doing here, Forge is probing this guy's brain to basically find out more about Evil Colossus, Omega Red, Deadpool, and kind of like their whereabouts. So they've eliminated mastermind. Now Wolverine wants to go after Sabretooth, right? And again, the ease at which Capullo switches from close up to far away to up shots to down shots, it's just amazing, and the consistency of it, right? I mean, he's an old workhorse and he's been at it for years, so you could almost have any shitty inker ink him and it would be great. And again, I've said Townsend is doing a pretty good job here, not saying that he isn't. Very clean, kind of modern job. I just prefer a little more grit that I feel I got like on that Batman series that he did, just a little bit more. But it's a minor gripe. The art is amazing. So this sequence is pretty fun. I'll let you in. Spoiler on one aspect here that's going to be important to understand. What's going to be happening a little bit later. So Wolverine basically 1 week later out in the desert somewhere in the States, I guess Nevada or something from what I saw on the map there. You know what? Let's double check. They're looking at the map. Right here, looks like he's made a home in the desert. They don't specify, but certainly seems like Southern California, Nevada, Arizona, somewhere over there. So Wolverine pulls up. He's got the motorcycle here. As you can see, the light shining right in Sabretooth's face. Obviously, he's not happy. And Wolverine pulls up. We can see the size difference here. Capullo does respect the old school kind of Wolverine proportions. Sabretooth it was always known he was like 6'6" or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. He's the size like a big wrestler, like the Undertaker or something. Wolverine's just 5'3". That's like Rey Mysterio height, or maybe Rey Mysterio's even taller than that. Again, a wrestling reference. So light shining on Sabretooth, right? That's going to be very important. I'm pointing it out because, as I read the comic the first go around, I didn't notice particularly. I mean, I did, but I wasn't like thinking it could be anything at any point. Just some interesting computer coloring, and they're having their usual kind of man-off conversation, right? But really, Wolverine's just trying to goad Sabretooth into a fight. And it's a pretty good one because it's Greg Capullo. It's a pretty satisfying Wolverine Sabretooth attack here where Sabretooth, it seems like just basically, pokes Wolverine's eyes out here, like scratches his, stabs his claws right into his face, which, I don't think I've ever seen Sabretooth do that, and it's very interesting. Greg Capullo, again, master of anatomy and musculature and stuff, right? He is himself a bodybuilder, so he's very aware of the muscles and where they are. Always does a great job at that. And the good small little detail, if you don't pay attention, you might miss, but the Wolverine arm over here, which is actually, Sabretooth's trying to grab his fist, and Wolverine is just slicing through his wrist there with his own claws. I like this pull away shot. So small, so tiny, and far away behind a cactus over here, like really far away, but like still enough detail to understand what's going on. Just enough. It's like right at the limit, but so effective. That's like the most clever drawing on this page. All right, so they're cutting the shit out of each other, right? As they usually do. Typical Wolverine Sabretooth conflict. They're really going with the blood here. This is, I think, the regular edition of the comic, right? Marvel's been putting out like a blood edition or like a rated R edition, which apparently has more gore and blood and violence and stuff. There's quite a bit here. Kind of a digital blood treatment in the color here, which I don't enjoy as much as, when the colors are a bit flatter and stuff. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. I'll take it. But yeah, getting very bloody here, so I'm wondering what the R-rated version would be when it gets to this point. Yeah, some of the inking choices, like this stuff here, I'm not quite certain on. Maybe more on John Romita Jr., but less on Greg Capullo. Great upshot. I like looking at it because I finally like the way Capullo draws this kind of mane of fur that Sabretooth's supposed to have. I've never seen it quite done like he's doing it here, and it really looks like more like almost like a Viking who's put a pelt on, right? And I kind of like that. I think it's cool. He's found kind of a new twist on how to do it that's interesting to me. Great upshot too, the angle and stuff. He's really got it down. Wolverine in the foreground, creating that depth. tilted horizon line. That always makes a drawing more interesting. And just reminding you of the background, just of the setting rather, just enough background information there. Okay, so Wolverine here, it looks like it's his guts, right? Could be his crotch. I mean, maybe that's what the rated R edition does. They just shift the arm a bit there, and Sabretooth eats it in the nads. But this is where it starts to turn a little bit. So I'm just going to read. That ain't gonna, something's wrong. I'm not healing. And this is what Wolverine says. Yeah, I know. That same friend that he was mentioning to Sabretooth, who was Forge, built a neutralizer into the bike's headlamp. And now your mutant powers are gone, Creed. I'm healing up just fine, but you're bleeding out. So the reveal that when we had the motorcycle earlier in the light, that was like a mutant power neutralizing light that Wolverine had Forge create for his encounter with Sabretooth. So Sabretooth basically now is not healing. Wolverine is, and you could assume Sabretooth could just bleed out and die. So Sabretooth pissed, and we basically end this issue with a cool splash page. Once again, Wolverine, Sabretooth facing off, and it's to be continued. So still like the storyline where it's going overall at this point, but I do feel compared with the comics I'm reviewing from the early 90s at Marvel and now, there's quite a difference. There is what's called decompressed storytelling in this first and second issue of Wolverine. I feel like a lot of what happened here could have maybe happened in one issue. Not all of it, but most of it maybe. But not to the point that I've seen other stories really stretch out where, like, you know, each issue, nothing absolutely happens at all. So I do think there's a pretty good balance here, maybe between a modern decompressed kind of storytelling and old school really compressed storytelling into one issue. So I'm still, you know, I'm digging the art for sure. And the story, I would say up to this moment, I've had a lot of satisfying kind of Wolverine moments. So yeah, I'm digging that too. You know, comparing it to one of I think my favorite Wolverine story, Enemy of the State by John Romita Jr., Mark Miller. That's kind of like, to me, the Wolverine masterpiece, honestly. No, I don't know if everyone agrees with that, but you can let me know in the comments. It's definitely a great Wolverine story for sure. Definitely a classic to me. So I'm kind of measuring this against that. And there's some interesting Wolverine moments, those things you kind of want to see, right? The Wolverine Sabretooth face off, the Nick Fury Wolverine scene, right? We're getting all the tropes, but kind of a new spin on it, I guess, or a different perspective on it. So in that way, I will say, you know, the story up to this point is interesting and it's also keeping me going. I want to see what happens next issue. So there you have it. The cover to Wolverine Revenge #3. I do always prefer getting the original, so the Capullo cover is what I'm looking for. Missed out on issue 1, but not the end of the world. Ultimately, I just want to read the comic, right? One thing I will mention about this, and I looked over the comic a whole bunch of times. Maybe someone can help me answer in the comments if you know anything about this. It says here on the side here, because again, I don't buy modern comics very often, bonus digital edition, details inside. And I've looked pretty much everywhere a couple of times, and I don't see any specific details about Wolverine, again, specifically in this whole issue. So if you know where it is or how that works or what I can do to figure it out, well, let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. If some extra stuff that I could look at for this series, I'd definitely be interested in checking that out. Maybe I'm a little bit digitally challenged and I missed something. Help me out if you can. So that's it for today. Thank you guys. If you are subscribed and still checking out my videos, I really appreciate your support. Those who are watching and are not subscribed yet, please do so. It's a really quick action for you to do, and it really helps out the channel, helps get us out there to other people who hopefully are like-minded and interested in the same kind of content and video reviews that I put out in comic books in general. So thank you to everyone who's been watching, and I hope everyone out there has a great day.